Well, today's message, where is God in my weakness? Where is God in my weakness? We're going to be talking about a story in Judges 6. You can go ahead and open up. I'm going to be making paraphrases out of the Message translation. I'm not going to actually read it, but I just want to let you know that's where you can find the story so you can check the accuracy of what I am saying. Have you ever felt weak? Have you ever felt inadequate, inferior? Ever felt like not enough? Ever felt like you were unable to do and live the life that God had for you? Have you ever felt weak? I remember first time I ever lifted weights, I put tens on each side, couldn't get off my chest, put fives on each side, couldn't get off my chest, did the bar, couldn't get off my chest. It was in 8th grade and I felt weak, felt inferior, felt unable. It was terrible. Weakness, that's really what it is. It's when we're unable to lift something, when we're unable with our strength to perform. And weakness is a result of sin with Adam and Eve. We see in Judges 6 that weakness is still occurring because of sin and because these people, these Israelites in Judges chapter 6, decide to worship other gods instead of the one true God. They ultimately find themselves getting overpowered, unable to defend their land, unable to defend their crops, unable to defend their families. They are being overpowered, they are weak, and they are being destroyed. They are being reduced by another kingdom. And this is what I want to say. Where in your life, this is how you can find your weakness. Where in your life do you feel like you're being reduced? Where do you feel like it doesn't matter how much you try, it doesn't matter what you do, you feel like you're being reduced, you feel poor in that area, like you feel like you don't have enough resource in that area, you feel tired, you feel drained, you feel sad, you feel discouraged, you feel inferior, you feel a lack of courage, you feel a lack of confidence, you feel unable to do what God's called you to do. Where is that for you in your life? Maybe it's with your parents or just stepping up and talking about God and the way He's called you to talk about Him. Maybe it's just in being courageous and bold and confident in the person that God's created you to be. I don't know what it is for you, but where are you weak at? God, this is the good news with our God, is that our God is only one call away. In our weakness, even when we're there because of our own stupidity and own dumb decisions, God is one call away. We see in the book of Judges chapter 6 that as soon as the people call, God turns His attention towards them and begins to develop a plan for how they can get out of this season and situation. That's incredible. They didn't deserve it. They were undeserving. They had put themselves in that place, but yet God was still just one call away. I think of that song, I'm only one call away. That's God. He's only one call away in the middle of our weakness. Where is God in our weakness? He's one call away. He's there, ready that when we will call on Him, He steps in. That's why we should use weakness as an indicator, not as something that makes us unable or inadequate, but we should look at weakness as an indicator that it's time to go back to our source of strength. It's time to pray. It's time to talk to God. Here's the thing. Weakness is inevitable. Since the fall, since sin's entered the world, every human is weak. Weakness is inevitable, but growth with God is available. So, when you're feeling weak, use it as an indicator to run back to God, to ask Him to be your source of strength. And here's what incredible. God doesn't just fix everything by Himself for the Israelites. He goes to a guy named Gideon. Gideon, sitting afraid, doing a job in a cave that he should be doing outside of a cave, but he's afraid and he's weak. Gideon says, I'm the weakest of the weak. I'm from the weakest family. I'm the weak. I don't know if you feel like the weakest of the weak in any area of your life, like you're inferior to other people. That's Gideon in this moment. Where is God in that moment? Gideon, a man that is willing to follow God, a man that is willing to admit his weakness. God comes to him, uses him, and says this. He says, Gideon, mighty warrior. Now that's comedic, that's laughable, because in that moment, Gideon is not being a mighty warrior, he's being a fearful coward in a cave. But God doesn't speak to where Gideon is in his weakness, He speaks to who he can be with God's strength. And God will do that in our lives if we will identify our weakness, identify God as our source of strength, he will begin to speak to who we are through his word, through preachers, through worship, through prayer. He'll begin to speak to who we are with his strength, not where we are in our weakness. And then he will begin to send us out of this place of weakness so that we can have a testimony for his glory. And he does that with Gideon, and he tells Gideon, when Gideon says, well, I'm the weakest of the weak, I can't do this. He tells Gideon, I will be with you. Where is God in your weakness? He's with you. He's working. He's your source of strength. That's where he is in your weakness. That's where God is in your weakness, wanting to partner with you. I love that when Graham and I'm building things, Graham's doing none of the work, but I love him being out there with me because he can partner with me. He's way too weak to do any of the work I'm doing, but I love the fact that he's there partnering with me. I'll be the source of strength. I just love that he's there. I just love the relationship. I just love the partnership. That's our God. And here's the reality is everybody's weak, but growth in God is available. Strength in God is available. And so here's what I want to say, friends. We can either dip out in our weakness. We can dip out of the presence of God. We can dip out of the call of God. We can dip out of the plan of God. We can just say, oh, we're too weak. We're too inferior. We can play the victim card. Or we can begin to depend on God and use our weakness and our doubt as an indicator that it's time to get back to God. Gideon, every time he doubts in this story, you'll see he runs back to God. And remember, our God with Gideon is the same God that says, no, don't use that many soldiers. No, don't use that many soldiers. No, don't use that many soldiers. Reduces his amount of soldiers to go fight thousands of soldiers down to 300. Could have had more. And God says, no, I want you to be weak so that when I come through, you will make no mistake about it. It was me that came through. And it's like, God, why would you make him weak just to get all the glory? Are you egotistical? No, Gideon was already weak. God was already going to have to come through. And God says, I want to make sure that you know that when I come through, that it was me that came through. I'm going to have to come through anyway, but I want to make sure you know in your weakness, stay weak, stay dependent on God, and watch as God begins to move in your life. Where is God in your weakness? He's moving, and he's available to be your source of strength in that season. Love you.